This week we have a special guest for you. We have Patrice Rice with Patrice and Associates. She is a excellent person. Glad to have her on the show. She's actually the CEO of my company, Patrice and Associates. Obviously, the show is Tell Your Story. So it's going to be the opportunity for Patrice to tell a bit about her past, where she is now, where she wants to go in the future. And I'd first like to tell a little bit about Patrice. She is the, as I mentioned, the CEO of Patrice and Associates, the largest hospitality recruitment firm in North America, with over 175 offices and 350 recruiters in the United States and Canada. She started the business in 1989 and has been franchising since 2008. She's been recognized as an expert in the hospitality field and has been seen on many different news stations, publications such as Nation Restaurant News, CNN Money, Forbes, and many others. She has a strong belief, which is a cornerstone of Patrice and Associates business, and that is that recruiting is not about money. It's about helping people. So, and I couldn't agree more. So without further ado, I want to bring on Patrice here. How are you doing this morning?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. And so what we'll do here is we'll kind of go right into some things here. I like to, start off things a little bit light. So what is it that you like to do for fun?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you that the noise in the background is my bird. We're all working from home today, so I have an African gray and an umbrella cockatoo who is very vocal. So I'm a big animal lover. My fun is my animals. I've had monkeys. I've raised parrots. I have 2 parrots now. I have 3 dogs. I have 4 miniature horses and 4 alpacas. And my fun, sometimes I have to be in a wheelchair, but I have wheelchair trained my dogs. I wheelchair trained my horses. I take them for walks like people take for dogs, and people are like, oh my God, she's walking a horse, And so that's really kind of my fun, training the animals, training the dogs, and the horses will be jumping soon. You can't put saddles on the miniature horses till they're 4 years old, but that's kind of what I love to do.
No, that's great. And well, tell me this. So obviously you're an animal lover, and we can see, and I myself am. But what is something that you like to tell the world that that nobody else knows that maybe you'd like to share?
Probably that I've lived through so many trials and tribulations, and the big thing is I just never gave up. That is the hard thing. There have been many times when I said, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I could have given up. There's a lot of stories in the book that about me personally. I've just been through a whole lot, and I wouldn't be where I am now if I gave up. So I think that's a big thing. And I still every day, I still have issues every day. And people say, Patrice, why are you still doing this? It's because I love it, and I love my franchisees and helping people. And I'm not sure that's what you're looking for, but that's kind of how I feel.
No, that's great. I think obviously knowing you and being a part of the business, resilience definitely shines through, and very a very heartful person. So I appreciate that. And anything else that maybe describes you that might be a little different that people may not know?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, and if you want the list, I was the first woman captain on the Chesapeake Bay. I wrote a book on how to interview many years ago and went to other agencies and got them to use my book. I taught people how to interview in the basement of my house. Funny things you used to do, you won't do today. I would not have strangers come to my house today. But back then I did, and people came and I taught them how to interview. Then I started recruiting, and then I owned the pet store for 10 years where I raised all kinds of animals while I also had the recruiting business. Then I started franchising, and, that's kind of an overview of how I got to where I am today.
No, it's great. I mean, and obviously the book that she's referring to, great book. You should check it out. I believe it's on Amazon, and we'll talk about at the end where you can get the book. But the job of getting a job, I've read it. It's wonderful. It's especially it's impeccable timing. Obviously, we don't plan for things to happen in the world, and things happen for a reason. And came out now. I think it's a great tool and resource for people to use. Um, and just want to highlight a few things about the book that kind of stand out that maybe just want to share and that I thought were great. And then one thing you mentioned that your parents taught you to be an entrepreneur. Um, and I think that's great being taught from, I try and do the same thing with my kids and lead them the right way. But tell me a little bit more about that, like how you got that entrepreneur spirit from your parents and how that evolved.
Well, they truly, in my opinion, achieved the American dream. They were farmers, they both came from farming country here in the Maryland area. They raised tobacco, and they got married. And Dad was a farmer, and then he worked on cars. They had 2 kids, and we were in Pittsburgh because that's where he was working on cars. Mom got a 2-year degree in teaching. But then Dad decided that he couldn't do that any longer. It's not what he wanted to be. So we moved to Indiana. We were very young, and he went to college. He did 4 years and 3 years. My godmother made our clothes. We didn't have money for clothes. We didn't have money for anything. He was going to college, and Mom was working at a local little school with only a 2-year degree. But he got his degree, and then he worked for Westinghouse before it was Northrop Grumman. And Mom ended up getting her full degree. But then he wanted more than a job. So he built his house, built a house on the water. Then he went to Iran for a year or two because Westinghouse had a deal with the Shah, and they could go over there and get tax-free money. So they did that, and they came back and they bought apartments. They ended up with 95 apartments in Baltimore. They sold their house here. They went to the British Virgin Islands and off of Easton Tortola. They built a house in the islands. They had a sailboat. We sailed everywhere. So Dad built it himself. So was always doing something and always not just happy with a job. And so then he sold his house and he retired to the British Virgin Islands. As they got older, they eventually moved to St. Augustine because they didn't have a helipad on the island in case something happened. So just watching them go from a farmer to never giving up and doing what it takes to retire in the islands was quite a feat and quite some big shoes to walk in.
Wow, I think that definitely, will inspire, youth and yourself to have dreams and aspirations and see what hard work will do. And if you keep working at it, and as you mentioned now, it's always, life is ongoing. So every day is a new challenge. Got to keep moving forward. And you mentioned kind of the Virgin Islands and in Florida. So have you traveled much abroad outside of like the beach area in your life?
No, I really haven't. I have many bucket lists here for the U.S., but I'm not somebody who just yearns to go, abroad. I love where I live. I love my friends, my family, a big extended family, and just travel in the U.S. and lots of places I haven't been here. So my goal is to go to every national park. That's my goal, and I'll get there one day.
Awesome. And so tell us about, you said that local now. So where are you now? Tell everybody where you are and where Patrice and Associates is located.
We are in Dunkirk, Maryland. It's a little town south of Annapolis. It's between Annapolis and D.C. It's really handy because we're kind of in the country with horses and cows, but in 30 minutes I can be in Annapolis, and 35 minutes I can be in D.C. So it's a great location. Awesome.
And I know you mentioned kind of liking, certain places you lived and where you've been, and you came about the Chesapeake cruising. So I know raised on the water, and so how did that come about?
Well, I lived on the water, and at that time there was something called the investment tax credit, where somebody could buy a boat, take 10% off the bottom line, rent it out like you rent cars, when it's called chartering, and write your entire boat off and end up owning it. So I bought a boat. I bought a power boat. I live in the Annapolis area, sailboat country, Naval Academy, and I had a power boat, but I wanted to take advantage of this. So I called some charter companies in Annapolis, and they said they handle sailboats, but if I wanted to bring it up to their pier, they would try. Didn't want to do that, wanted to keep it at my own pier. So I decided just to do it myself. Of course, I'd never done it before, but just do it. So then I thought, well, there are other people who might like to do this as well, keep the boat at their pier. So I started attracting them. Next thing, I was attracting people who didn't have a pier but had a boat. So I ended up with 6 boats at my pier and outgrew it. So I moved to a marina, and I ended up managing 26 boats for people who wanted to write them off. They were 28 feet to 45 feet. And people would come to rent them out. And, of course, I would have to give them a sea trial, a little test. You don't have a driver's license for a boat. You just have a checkbook. So I would give them this test, and I was much younger then. And these salty dogs would say, little girl, you know, why are you asking me to do this? And I would say, well, let me see you take this 45 Trojan and park it on that inside slip and show me how you're going to tie it up. You know, so I decided I had to get a captain's license to give validity to my business. So I got my captain's license, and it turns out I was the first woman captain on the Chesapeake Bay. I started corporate entertaining on luxury yachts. In Baltimore, in the Inner Harbor, there wasn't any at the time. My very favorite boat I had was a 75-foot Trumpy, which was an all-wooden mahogany boat, 1929. The big fantail, and we would do weddings and on that. And then I bought a 97-foot boat, and then I attracted other people with big boats, and we did corporate entertaining on the boats. But in the late 70s, early 80s, we had the real gas crunch, and we were sitting in line for gas. I had a powerboat fleet. So the business went away, the investment tax credit went away, it all went away, but that was a chapter of my life I just loved. We would take the big boats down to Florida, to Fort Lauderdale, to charter them out in the wintertime. I remember we were taking the Trumpy. The Trumpy we took to the Bicentennial in New York, and we were varnishing all the way to the Pointer Sisters, all the way up and down the Intercoastal Waterway. So it was a good time.
Now you mentioned in the book as well, like when that happened, you know, obviously sounds like, you know, not to use a coronavirus right now, but we'll talk about it a little bit later, but you know, things happen pretty fast, right? So we didn't know it was going to happen. And so from what I read, it was, that happened pretty quickly in your world at that time?
Yes. Yes. You know, the gas crunch, the oil business and the importing the oil was a big thing. And we really just didn't have gas. So, you know, marina fuel was the first to go, because the gas stations needed gas, and people were sitting in line for those. So we were not able to get fuel. So the business had to close.
Gotcha. Now that, I mean, it kind of relates to a lot of people today with things that in that same environment, yet different time period, where a lot of people are, you know, either furloughed, out of work, unemployment, and looking for options. And, you know, like yourself, and you might be in one field and it's time to reevaluate and, you know, looking at the book, and then you kind of made your way like many people are today. You know, you went into like a hospitality agency, right? To kind of see what you could do. And just curious, kind of, how was that when you walked in the door?
Well, when the business went away, it's like, what am I going to do? So I went to a local employment agency and said, what do you have for me? A boat captain. Obviously, he didn't have anything, so he recruited me to recruit for him. And I started recruiting in sales and IT, which is what he needed me for. I ended up managing his office, and it came a time when he couldn't pay me. It was $5,400, a lot of money, especially back then. And so I talked to an attorney who said just because he broke the non-compete didn't mean that I could break it. So I had to wait a year to start recruiting. So that's when I did nails. I went and did people's acrylic nails. That's when I taught people how to interview. I didn't have heat that year. I had a kerosene heater that heated my house. My parents would have loaned me money, but didn't want to ask them, you know, making it on my own. And so after that year, I started recruiting, and what I knew was IT and sales. And then the day that changed my life, back then we didn't have the internet, we had fax machines. And the big thing was broadcasting. So I sent out emails, and I got a call the next day from another agency in Maryland, and they talked about a sales rep. Okay, and I said, so what do you guys do? Oh, we work with Bob Evans. You know, they pay us $2,000 per person, and they made 40 hires from us last year. So I hung up the phone, good luck with this salesperson, and I immediately called Bob Evans. You know, they made 1,000 hires from me. They paid me $3,000 per month, per hire. And that's how I found out this industry used agencies. And that is the day that changed my life, because I switched 100% to hospitality. And like I said, I ran it from my house for 20 years. I have like 40 recruiters that worked for me all over the country. And recruiters come and recruiters go, and I realized I was giving away an instant business. You know, if somebody wanted to be a real estate agent, they have to pay for the class, they have to pass the test, they have to work in a brokerage house for 2 years, part-time, hoping the phone rings with somebody that wants to buy or sell. They got to pay their own advertising in those little magazines, put out flyers. They didn't have to do anything with that with me. They just had to work the business. I had the jobs. We have candidates. Teach them how to find more candidates. But it was like it was like something they would try and walk away from. So then I did something nobody else had done and many people thought was crazy. I charged people $3,500 to come to work for me on straight commission. And people would say, excuse me, you should be paying me for training. And I would say, then you need to go be an employee because you're not who I'm looking for. So I did that. It was fine. It worked. I had people coming to class, but it was like they put it on a credit card and they would still walk away. So that's when I knew I wasn't working with the right kind of people. I needed more business-minded people, and those kind of people want two things. They want to make more money and they want to own something. And that's when I decided to franchise. I had to take out a second mortgage on my house because it's very expensive to start franchising, and hired a firm to set it all up. And when we had to have all the states approve it, it took almost a year and a half to put it together before I could start selling franchises. And now here we are today.
You know, fabulous. And obviously that's kind of what lured me to the opportunity to be a business owner, and, you know, come into a great company, great leadership with yourself and Brian, and then have the opportunity to prove yourself and, you know, to work each day. And so for somebody that's coming in, and whether it be, you know, a franchise, a business, a new job, you know, you always hear two things. Either, you know, do something that you love, or do something that you're skilled at, or do both. So what is your thought on whether you love it, the skill set, both? Just curious on, you know, choosing a job.
Well, to me, choosing a job versus a franchise is a little different, but to me, in the job world, being able to combine the two is obviously the best. Sometimes you don't have that luxury, you know, but if you're looking for a job and you've decided what it is you would love, then take your skill set and see how it could apply to that particular job or industry. Because that's really important when you write their resume, to show them how, even though you've done this, what you've done there can be, now you can do that for them in their company. Because they're not going to pick it up and say, oh, they could do this because they did that. So the resume is really important, especially if you want to do something you think you would love. But also remember, the grass is not always greener. You know, if you're working for another company, it's something you love. You may not like the management or whatever, so give that some thought too. But your skill set is very important, and it can apply to other industries. That's the thing to remember.
No, I appreciate it. So it depends on kind of where you are and kind of where you're wanting to go. And, speaking of where you are, where you want to go, you mentioned that, the Bob Evans was a kind of pivotal moment in your time to focus on the niche, the hospitality. But you also mentioned your book, a great leader as well, a partner of yours, Brian Miller. So I know in 2004 you met, and 2008 you started the franchise. So tell me a little bit of how that came about, and kind of where that road has led since then.
Sure, sure. Well, all my life I've done everything by myself. I've never had a partner. Always done everything by myself. And I started franchising by myself. And initially I was seeking restaurant operators to come into my business as a franchisee, because they have no life. They work every weekend, every holiday. They're never home for dinner. And they've hired people. They know the industry. I thought it was a perfect match. And they thought it was a perfect match too. But what happened is they got lonely. It sounds great, but after 6 months or so, they're used to being around people all the time. They're cooking on the grill because somebody didn't show up, somebody's at the register, and the delivery truck's at the back door. So this was great for a while, but some of them went back to work in the restaurant industry, and their spouses tried it. So I was trying to figure out what was going on. And there really does come a time where you have to be smart enough to know what you don't know. I'd never been in franchising before. And I thought, I've done everything else I wanted to do. I got it this far. But to get it to the next level and figure it out, I needed to find the right person. And I knew Brian. He's been my business coach for about 1.5 years. And I worked every little bit of magic I could to get him to join my company. He was my greatest recruiting effort. And talk about executive search, yeah, that was it. And so he joined my company, and he took about 1 year to just sit back, watch, and learn. And he talked to every single franchisee, and then we made a strategic plan. And he said we really want to go after people that have some kind of sales background, that have been, even if it's fundraising or something, understand talking to people on the phone. Whereas obviously restaurant managers, that was not their thing. Some of them can't even sit in a chair for 8 hours. So he came on board and joined me, and we kind of hit the reset button, and things have really turned around, and a lot of things are different, and it's great.
No, that's great. And one thing you mentioned, being a recruiter is likeness. Having the same job, same atmosphere, role, money. That way, it can be challenging when you're fast paced, and now you're still fast paced, but maybe on your own for 6, 7,
Right.
8 hours compared to running around. So, but the book itself, once again, the job of getting a job, great book, a lot of great bits of information. But I want to ask, what actually made you decide to write the book?
Well, there are so many books out there that are written for the C-suite, or they call it whatever's written just for admin. There's only 2 kinds of books out there. There's really nothing out there for just the general person, the person who works in manufacturing, or the person who's a blue-collar worker, or the person, just everybody. Nothing is written for them. And I call this the J suite, the job suite, that can be for everybody. It's not focusing on high-level jobs, and that's what most of the books out there are about. And when I realized that, I thought, the people we deal with are from all walks of life, and all have the common denominator of looking for a job. And most of them need coaching, and that's what we do. And so that's what led me to write the book.
No, that's great. I think it is a great resource for anybody that's, I highly encourage you to pick up the book, especially, if you're looking for a job and, having a quick read. So, I read through it through about a week. So if you're looking, especially now, one thing Patrice mentioned is you have to put the time into getting a job, and definitely is a great start for that time as you're doing so. And so for those job seekers right now that are in this world that are looking for a job, whether it be assistant manager, GM, the J Suite world out there, what is it that you recommend for them to do right now?
Well, this is a crossroads for many people. A lot of people got furloughed, got laid off, and I've talked to some employers who say, oh, I'm going to hire everybody back. And I said, well, that may be your plan, but what's their plan? You know, now people have the time with the increased unemployment money and the length of time to look at other options. So somebody that got furloughed maybe said, oh, good, I didn't like that job anyway. So now they're going to be looking at other opportunities. So the book walks them through that, actually, to think about what it is you like, and don't throw your resume out there without a plan, you know. And, you know, we offer, for people that have been laid off, we offer free services to review their resume, kind of an outsourcing option that we offer, and have a plan and really think about it. And once you have that plan, then move forward. But don't do it out of fear. Now, a lot of people don't have to have that fear because they're collecting unemployment. It's not as much as they were making, but in some cases it's pretty close. So, you know, now is the time. It's an option for you you probably didn't think you would have in your life. And don't miss it. Just think about what it is you want for the next chapter of your life.
No, that's great. I was going to ask you the next question. How can we, Patrice and Associate, help job speakers? But you kind of mentioned it there. You know, outsourcing, helping them with the plan, helping with their resume. Anything else kind of come to mind when it comes to maybe a candidate that we can help with?
Yeah, because we're career coaches. We're career coaches. You may not know what you want to do next. Okay. We can talk to you, find out about you, talk to you about different career paths, someone you can talk to that knows the industry. You know, talking to family and friends, everybody has an opinion, okay? And you're going to listen to those opinions without really getting into your head sometimes and knowing what it is you want to do. And that's what we do. You know, some people pay counselors or career counselors, but we do it for free. And so we can help you think about it. If you want to be in the same industry, great. You know, if you want to go back to your same job, great. You know, but we can help you get to that point of clarity to see what it is you'd really like to do. And I want to mention that the book is a free download on our website, patriceandassociates.com. Yes, we'll be happy to send you a hard copy, a soft copy if you'd like, but it's a free download on the website. We do not charge for this book. So just let us know, and we can get it to you.
No, that's great. I think that I appreciate that. I know it's going to be a great resource for many of the candidates. And on the other side, obviously, the clients right now, as you mentioned, you know, having the furlough, PPP money is coming back in. You know, you've got the 8 weeks and that's at your bank to start hiring again. So how can we help clients right now?
Well, first of all, my client book's getting close to being ready to come out. Did one for candidates, I'm doing one for clients. But, you know, the best thing we can do is to let them know we're there. You know, they may not need us. Maybe everybody will come back. But in our industry, they're going to need to hire and hire fast. The forward-thinking people are using their PPP money now to bring people back because now they have a better selection of really quality people that they may not have had earlier and may not have again when everybody is rushing to hire. So they're being smart about it, and they're hiring people now. So if you talk to clients, you know, the best thing they can do is, if they've gotten their PPP money, is to look at the talent that's available. They'll be surprised at the talent that you can bring to them at this time. Franchisees can bring to them. If they don't want to do that, just tell them that, you know, where they might need somebody, and you can start contacting people. So if they decide they need your resources, then you're ready to help them. That's the thing. We're ready to help them in whatever it is they want to do. If they furloughed somebody that they want to come back, we can talk to that person and maybe try to get them to make sure they go back to that company. You know, anything they need in staffing is what we can do for them.
No, I think that's great. I think it goes back to your motto. You know, you mentioned, you know, it's not about the money, it's about helping people, especially at a time like this. You know, like myself, being a franchise owner and being a career coach and a coach for 30 years. So opportunity to you know, coach candidates and to help, but even the clients to be, you know, a strategic partner. So it's uncharted waters right now. So, you know, I know we're here to kind of help steer the boat, as you say, your past life, and kind of help strategically kind of get, you know, through the waters and the waves and continue on into kind of smooth sailing. And so I know that we definitely can help, and with a great leader yourself, we're positioned to help in any way we can. And you know, speaking of Patrice and Associates, the company, you know, what are your future goals? I know we've got some exciting news with the executive training coming out. So just curious, like, tell people where you see P&A going in the future.
Well, the big thing is to not have the franchisee stagnate, you know, because franchisees are entrepreneurs. You know, once they learn something and they get to that point, I don't want them to get bored either. Okay, so we have great franchisees that have been here for several years and have built a business, and now they're looking for what is the next step for them. And they're looking to us as the leadership to provide that next step. So that's where we're going to go into the executive search, working more with the C-suite needs that companies have. Also, we're expanding into other industries. You know, because of what is happening, there are job titles now that you've never seen before, and that you'll never see, but that you will always see again. You know, we didn't used to have a deputy of safety and sanitation at certain companies because that title just didn't exist at that time. So we're expanding into more high-level searches, and it will definitely increase the ROI of our franchisees and give them something to look forward to and work on.
Well, that's great, man. You know, a lot of, you know, this show is meant for, you know, business owners, executives, and when it comes to being a CEO yourself, in your thought, just to kind of change the pace a little bit, what is the best and then the worst part of being a CEO? So you've got the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything in between, or you just love it all?
No, I don't love it all. Nobody loves all of everything, and you know, this is supposed to be an honest show, right? What I love is people being successful. At our last convention, I had a top performer come up to me in tears, thanking me for not giving up. Because if I had given up, she would not have had this opportunity. She bought a new house. She took her entire family, including her grandmother and aunt, to Italy. And those are things that she would not have been able to do until she had this business. So she's that impacting people's lives. You know, I used to change people's lives as candidates. Now I change them as franchisees. The worst part is trying to figure out how to help franchisees who don't want to work, who don't want to be on the phone, and they're not successful. You know, you have to talk to people. We're a phone business. And I guess some people don't like doing it. I encourage them to hire somebody to do it. But somebody paid a lot of money for a franchise, and some people just don't work it. And that's what I lose sleep about at night, that I took somebody's money and tried to train them. I can't pick up the phone for them, and I don't know how to motivate them to work their own business. We do a lot of motivational seminars. We reach out to them individually. You know, they have regional developers that help them. But it just breaks my heart, actually, that somebody is sitting home and not getting reaping the rewards of what they paid for.
I know it can be difficult. You know, being a coach, and the one saying that I always say, and you can't teach one to, right? As much as you love to, you just can't. And you know, obviously with a great business like this, having a great regional developer and a regional team, and you know, we have motivational Mondays that kind of get us through things right now. And just kind of going through things right now with the coronavirus, just kind of always want to, touch subject on it because it is a big thing in the world right now. And we're just about, moving forward through it. But what's been the most surprising thing to you about this whole experience the last month?
When things change and you have to change with it, sometimes you try things that you would never have tried before, but you find out, that's pretty good, okay? One of the things is training. Everybody's always come to Maryland, and that's been great. That's what we've done forever, 10 years. Now we do virtual training. And it's funny, the franchisees love it. And it works out great because everybody sees everybody. The franchisees don't have to come to Maryland. They don't have to spend 2 weeks here. I'm not saying we'll never do in-person again, but that was a change we would never have done that has worked out really quite well. Of course, people don't want to travel now, and we'll probably the next couple classes will be virtual. But it's much easier on the franchisees, too, to be able to stay at home. So there are things that you try just to be able to continue to do business during this time that you wouldn't have tried. And it's like, oh, there is a little silver lining here.
No, that's great. And just kind of lastly on the coronavirus, and just, it is a tough subject to tackle, but during these times, when there's trials, tribulations, always say, go through the darkness, get to light. So what would you say, what are you most proud of the organization that during this time?
I am proud that they are embracing the next step. I am proud that, the Motivational Mondays, we've had way over 100 people show up for those. And everybody needs a little levity. Brian Miller is great at sharing stories, motivational stories. And then we always have a little lesson, and we are trying to motivate people in this time not to crawl in a hole, but to get excited. And now's the time for us to look at other titles. Now's the time to get on the phone and talk to clients. And we had a whole client development series last week, teaching people again how to do that. So as each week we have more and more people on the Monday calls, which is great because that means the word is spreading. People are telling other people how great they are. They're showing up. And I am proud that they are actively participating. We have people like you that are out there helping people. We have other franchisees in different ways that are helping people. And you know what? This may not have happened if there weren't a coronavirus. You may not be doing these series. Other people may not be doing the things that they're doing. And it's really kind of interesting, and I'm proud of franchisees that are adapting to find other ways to do business that, wow, it's working great, but you may not have done it before. So I think it's awesome.
I think it's great. I mean, this was a plan of mine a year from now. Not quite now, but things do change, and that's with business. You have to adapt. And I always say if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So, but speaking of planning, just got 3 last questions here to wrap up. So, what is your ultimate goal in life?
Oh my God.
So these would be
I think I'm living it. I'll be quite honest. I think I'm living it because, people say, Patrice, why don't you retire? When are you going to retire? I don't see me retiring. My ultimate goal is to continue doing this and continue to try to make it better. I live where I want to live. I have the animal. I may get some goats, and I'm thinking about some pigs. So I'm getting some more land, so I'm probably going to increase my little farmette here a little bit. Not into chickens, so don't think I'm going to do the chickens. But just, have the life and the home that I want and build my business and help people to be successful. That's what I've done for a long time, and I can't see me stopping. It would be a void in my life to do that.
That's great. It's great just to help people. And then, so what is the one thing that you'd like to be and love to be remembered by?
I like to be remembered. I like people to think I have a big heart and I care about a lot of people. I give of myself a lot. I try to create an atmosphere in the business of people helping people, and we have regional developers that are volunteering their time to help people. And, you know, Brian and I, we're stepping up to do these webinars. My goal would be to have every person I come in contact with to reach their goals. Now, that's my goal. That's not necessarily their goal, and you have to be coachable. But I just want to be remembered as somebody who cared about people, not just building an organization to collect money.
No, you know, you're definitely a very servant leader, very thoughtful, big heart, and very caring. And, you know, kind of leads up to the last question I have, which I always leave as the last question. And that is, what are the 3 things that you are most grateful for?
Well, I didn't study my questions, but I should have, okay? 3 things I'm most grateful for. I'm grateful for my health, because that is what allows me to do what I want to do. Sure, I have arthritis, you know, all those things, pills work, you know, but, you know, I'm grateful for my health that allows me to continue to do what I'm doing. I'm grateful for Brian Miller, my support staff, because I could no longer do it by myself because we're just so big. And I'm grateful for my family. I don't have children. I have a huge extended family. I have probably 6 daughters and multiple grandkids, and we have birthday parties, and so I'm grateful for my extended family. And I think that I'm grateful for my life. I just like my life.
I think that is 3 fabulous things to be grateful for. And then, so once again, you've got to get the book, The Job of Getting a Job. You'll definitely be able to reach out to me. I'll be able to guide you there to do so, to download it. It's a free download. Great opportunity for some learning, some education. Like I said, a very quick read. And you know, if you're a entrepreneur out there or a business owner exec, I'd love to have you on just to tell your story and kind of share some knowledge with others. And Patrice, how can they get a hold of you if they like to in the future as well?
The best thing to do is to go to the website and send a note through info@patriceandassociates.com, and then that will come to me or directed to Scott or to whoever is you know, can help you in your area. So that's the best thing. If you go on the website, you can just do the info, or you can go to the map and click on a state. But I think the best thing to do is to reach out to either Scott or myself through info@patriceandassociates.com, and we can get you the help you're looking for.
Well, thanks, Patrice. It's been a pleasure as always, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.